It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Friday, April 12th. Your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content. That all things being said, was really happy to see how the Flyers played against the Rangers.
Yeah, they answered the bell.
Your Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here as always with Russ Cohen, who's on all your favorite social media apps at Sportsology. We are at Locked On Flyers on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky as well. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for qualified applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/locked-on to start hiring now. Terms and conditions apply. You can find our show over on YouTube or on the SiriusXM app or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to get our latest episode as soon as it's available here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, before we dig into Flyers versus Rangers, just a couple small tidbits of news. Flyers draft pick Matteo Mann, who we talked about recently, related to the CHL playoffs. He was with St. John, who got eliminated in the Q playoffs pretty early on. So he signed a PTO with the Reading Royals, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the Phantoms were like, listen, we got too many players here, so give it a go there.
Yep. So we'll see what that means in terms of like coming to camp next year, and does he get a shot with the Phantoms at all? But at least for now, he's going to get some pro games in. So that is an interesting development. The AHL also announced they have a team winner from each team for their like kind of man of the year award about involvement in the community and stuff. And Adam Brooks was the winner from the Phantoms. Good to see. He's just such a stand-up dude, and I'm so happy the latter part of this season has been going really well for him on the ice as well.
Yeah, he's a real pro. He's been around. He gives max effort. Just a good guy all around. So, yeah, you're happy to see that for those kinds of guys.
Yeah, really, really good. Flyers versus Rangers. I was there at Madison Square Garden, and Sam Ersson in net. Interesting lineup choices. Now we know it worked out as the Flyers won 4-1, but Cam Atkinson was in, Lixel was out, Zamula was in, and Stahl was out. So it's like there was like this scale balance thing here. We got one thing we wanted and one thing we didn't want here, right?
Yeah, I'm never going to be pleased with these lineups. It doesn't matter. It's like, do what you want, John, because John's only caring about now. There is a minute chance they can get in the playoffs, so he's going to keep doing this. And I don't think it's good for development, and I'm going to stay on that hill.
The interesting thing about this one to me overall, we're going to talk about Sam Ersson because I think that was a huge, huge factor.
Yeah, it was a good comeback for him.
Yeah. But very first off, the Rangers game to me felt a lot like the Flyers game during the losing streak in a lot of ways. There was a lot of like missed passes. There was a lot of just bad shots. Like they just weren't taking good shots overall. It just honestly looked like opposite day out there for good chunks of the game.
Yeah, it wasn't their best game, but they played. They wanted to win. Yeah, it happens. They had won like 11 straight against the Flyers. Sometimes these things are due. I think, look, the Flyers knew, and this is why we said they didn't quit. We knew they didn't quit on the coach. It was just a matter of they just had nothing in the tank. They conjured it up. They knew this was it. If they lost, they were out. And you got a good game out of them, and that was good. And, yeah, it was important for Ersson because, he kept getting lit up, and it wasn't really his fault. But again, we still don't know, like, is he going to be a top flight number one goalie? we're not going to know that until like the middle of next year, really.
Right, but you could tell just even after the game, he just had a lot like, it was relief for him
Sure. Oh,
and a
absolutely.
lot more confidence, but he did also compliment the guys in front of him. I mean, goalies do that, but I think it was absolutely warranted. Like, he just said that everything was a lot more comfortable and the defense was playing with a lot more structure, which
Yeah.
I also agree with.
Yeah, I agree. I saw York really step it up. Stanheim was
Mhm.
like good, but not great. I don't know why in my eyes I just felt, but that's fine. I mean, but other guys, the forwards were really doing the job too. Uh,
Yeah.
Even guys like Tippett were playing hard defense, and that was good. And so, yeah, it was right for him to do that because the guys, as much as they wanted to win the game, they probably felt bad about how they played for him. So I think they all corrected those things.
Yeah, and I think defensively in particular, the Flyers did block a lot of shots, but I just felt there was something different about it. Like it was smart shot blocking. And it
Yeah, they didn't
wasn't
go
like it
crazy
didn't
with it.
destroy themselves by
No,
doing it.
no, they didn't go crazy with it. I think they did do it at key times, and I think that mattered.
Yeah, and I think it made it easier just in terms of getting the puck out of the zone.
Yeah.
It when all was said and done. They did get caught a couple of times during the game,
Oh, yeah.
with the Rangers getting sustained offensive pressure, but that was gonna happen no matter what,
Right.
with the ebbs and flows of a game against a team like the Rangers.
Yeah, there was no way they were gonna just shut them down. So, like, yes, you're right. Those things were gonna happen, but they overcame it.
Yeah, and I would say especially so in the 3rd period, it was 3-1 coming out, into the 3rd period,
Yeah,
and you could just see the Rangers step it up a
they
notch
did.
at the beginning of that period. They got a lot more physical, a lot more aggressive, I would say, and it felt like they were trying to bait the Flyers into something at the beginning of that period, and the Flyers just didn't take it.
No, this was the first time where I felt like, they didn't go for that, and then that was good on their part because I do think the Rangers were trying we're trying to mix it up like you said, and yeah, not going for that was important because, yeah, I mean, again, you don't wanna put the Rangers on the power play too many times.
Right, and even, like, the one major time where there was little fisticuffs or extracurriculars, as they say, the Flyers wound up with a power play at the end
Right.
of it. That doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of
We
things
don't even
just
talk
because
about power plays anymore. It just there's no point. It's just,
Yeah.
it's just a sore spot.
But, at least it didn't put them on the penalty kill. Now,
Right.
the one time that there was a lapse on that front, obviously that was when the Rangers scored. It was 5 on 3.
Yeah.
And so that wasn't great. But I think that, to have that happen once during the game and that was the only goal that the Rangers scored, I think just says a lot about the character of this team overall.
Yeah, they bounced back. That didn't kill them. So yeah, I think the hatred for each other, the two clubs kind of, kept them going. And, and that's what you need this time of year. You got to have something to keep you going.
Yeah, it was also interesting because, going back to the physicality of it all, there was multiple times during the game where the Rangers fans were chanting, "We want Rempe,"
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
They really did
which
too. I mean, and that,
yeah.
you know, that's gonna be a thing now for them going down the stretch, and you do kinda wonder if he was in the game, how that might have changed the physicality part of the game, but hey, that was their choice.
Yeah, and, I did ask Travis Konechny, if he thought there was something different about this game in terms of coming back from the Rangers, push at the beginning of the 3rd period. He's like, "No, we're just doing our business," there's gonna be instances like that, and we know how to shut the Rangers down, and I thought that was really good, that it was just
Yeah,
kind of like a normal thing and not they didn't see it as different,
right,
which I
right.
thought was important in
Yeah,
that
that is
sense.
important for sure. It shows some late season maturity there, like, "Hey, we get entangled with that, we're just throwing our season away."
Right, exactly, exactly. Also wanna talk about Noah Cates. Man, that was a nice goal.
It was a really nice play, probably the nicest of the year for him. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's come on at the right time.
Yeah, he's on a 5-game point streak right now, which God, it feels so, so good for him with
Yeah.
how everything has gone for him this season.
Yeah, it's been a rough year for him. So I mean, for him to get this, at least, yeah, the season will probably feel decent. He knows that he could do better, and yeah, he'll learn from it next year. But that's a big goal for him for sure.
Y Yeah, absolutely, and, Travis Konechny also getting a goal and an assist in this game, I think was super important. First off, his goal was great, but secondly, I think that, as Travis Konechny goes, so goes the Flyers in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
and, during that whole losing streak, he was, really on the struggle bus, so to see him, come out in this one and have a statement game was really important.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of those games, he was like chasing his tail. He wasn't getting anywhere. So for him to finally get a payoff had to feel great.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, we still have 2 more games left this season. I can't believe it's only 2.
That's it.
Time flies. But, we have a sort of updated playoff scenario, and Flyers versus Devils on Saturday to talk about, and we'll do that coming up next.
We all know how important life insurance is, but it can be overwhelming trying to find the right policy on our own. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. I know it feels so much better to have insurance and to not have to worry about my family being covered. Your work life insurance may not offer enough protection for your family's needs. Even worse, it may come with you if you leave your job. And Policy Genius gives you unbiased advice from a licensed expert support team. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonnhl or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonnhl.
Are you watching sports on cable TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all the shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, Russ, looking at the playoff scenarios, it's been very complicated because of regulation versus
Oh,
overtime
yeah.
and all of that stuff. So, the Islanders win did not help the Flyers. That is for sure.
Both them and the Penguins. The Flyers actually needed
Yeah.
Detroit to win, too.
Yeah. I mean, with Pittsburgh and Detroit, neither one of them winning was helpful, but you can't help it when
No.
like they're playing each other. But the issue was that it was an overtime game. So they both got
Yeah.
points, which was worst case scenario.
Yeah, those are always bad. That's why these 3-point games suck. They just do, and it's
Yeah.
awful. The way I look at it is it's fine to have hope, you ride out the season, see what happens. But both these teams are hot, and you're asking them now to lose at least 2 out of 3, both of them, forgetting about every
Yeah.
other team that's, in there. And I think that's a tall order, honestly.
It really is. And so, it is extremely slim, but the chances are still there for the Flyers, and they just have to win it out and then see what happens with the other teams. But I think that, like, we know where it's going, but I think that finishing out on a good note is more important for the
Yeah,
Flyers
that's
right
always
now.
important. The weird thing is we thought it might be the Devils game that they win. They win the Ranger game. The Devils beat the Leafs. So that's what I'm saying with this league. You just
Yeah.
don't know. And the Devils are not going to just play an easy game. They're not going to just, hand it to the Flyers and say, here you go. Good luck. Hope you win the next one. It's not going to happen.
No, and especially because they've been eliminated
Right.
mathematically, like, they are in a different mode, but still, like, for them to prevent the Flyers from making the playoffs, I think would be a good, like, moral victory for
Yeah, they
them,
would
and
definitely
so
see that as a moral victory. There's no question about that.
Yeah, and we do not want the New Jersey Devils to have moral victories because I do not enjoy that, especially given the previous matchup with the Devils in the Stadium Series game where they won 6-3. That was not fun for
No, and that's,
us.
you could look back at that as far as um, one that you kind of, if they'd have played, the Flyers had played better then, would they have not maybe gone into the tank later? I don't know. It was maybe a couple weeks later they went into the tank. Maybe that would have given them a little bit more rise, but that one definitely hurt them. You could tell because there's always a lot of stuff that
Yeah.
goes into these outdoor games, and that one was just, yeah, not their best game.
Right, and I just think that there has to be some sort of, like, emotional, um, incentive for the Flyers to get a little bit of revenge for that game as well.
Yeah, they're gonna face a better goalie, though. They're probably gonna face Jake Allen,
Yes,
and so that's,
correct.
that's another layer.
Right, and that's the big difference, I think, in this Devils team, between then and now, and so you're right, we will see Jake Allen, but the other big difference is on the downside for the Devils, Jack Hughes, season-ending shoulder surgery. I think that is a huge blow for the Devils to finish out the season.
Yeah, no question. I mean, he's their leader, he's their best player, uh, fastest player. Well, maybe second fastest, depends on the day. But yeah, all that said, big loss. But again, they handed it to the Leafs. Like if you'd have told me they were going to beat the Leafs, I'd be like, come on, it's not going to happen, and they did. So it does show that teams when they band together can be dangerous, and that's what the Flyers have
Right.
to watch out for.
Right. And so the one thing that the Devils are doing right now is because they've been eliminated is giving some of their prospects a little bit more ice time and calling up their top scorers from the AHL and kind of the things that we wanted the Flyers to do, but
Yeah.
it's a different situation. So with the Devils, do you really think though it was like the injuries that got the Devils here, or was it, like, just they couldn't put it together?
Well, I think if they had the goaltending, the injuries would have been secondary. Uh, and who knows if they had better goaltending. I can't tell you Hughes wouldn't have been hurt, but I could tell you he'd have probably played differently. I think he was trying to carry the team on his back, and that's always a hard thing to do. Look, Siegenthaler, Hamilton, those are big players for them. And so to lose them, that's
Mhm.
that's a big deal. But I don't think it's totally on the injuries. I don't. I think it was on the lack of getting their goaltending, and that's what I think did them in.
Yeah, so, um,
And I mean getting
the
it in time. Like they eventually got it, but it was late.
right, right. So, they've been giving Nolan Foote, some more ice time. They've been giving Graham Clark ice time. Shane Bowers has moved up in the lineup a little bit, and so I think those guys have a lot to prove here
They do.
because, this is their shot. So that's just, a little asterisk to look out for in terms of
Right.
facing this Devils team.
Yeah, some youthful legs at the end. Uh, Bowers and Clark certainly have some talent there. So yeah, those are things that you have to look out for. And they already, again, like you're just with a guy like Luke Hughes with not having anything to worry about, you got to worry about it because he
Yeah.
could create offense all on his own.
Yeah, absolutely. And, obviously Nico Hischier has had like a pretty strong
He
season
has, yeah.
overall. So, and Brat always seems to play better against the
He
Flyers.
does. There's just no way around it. He just does.
Yeah. So I think that's just
And Timo
something.
Meyer has played a lot better too. We have to say that.
Yeah, that
So
is also true.
he's had a resurgence, so that's another big body. Look, it's just you have to try and take advantage of their defense, but again, their defense is super mobile. And, with guys like Nemec and Hughes, Marino's very mobile. And then you got Kevin Ball, who's a giant. You got Brendan Smith, who's going to hit everybody in the mouth and trip everybody when they're not looking. Like this is going to be a tough game.
Yeah, I think so. But it should be a fun one
Yes.
also because they are honoring Wayne Simmonds in his retirement, and they are doing the whole 1-day contract thing, and I'm just really looking forward to a very big highlight reel from the Flyers with Wayne Simmonds, and I I just can't imagine there being a dry eye in the house when they show the clip of the Stadium Series game there from a few years ago. But I just think it's so wonderful. And we talked about it when they announced they were doing this, but
Yeah.
again, worth repeating because Wayne Simmonds is an absolute legend, and um, I, I just wonder, like, is there a future for him? Working with the organization as a player development coach or something along those lines.
Yeah, there's probably something. If he wants to. Uh, the thing you have to watch out for in games like this is how much will the start get delayed? Because a lot of times teams get emotionally wrapped up in what's going on, and then the start, there's a delay in the start, and then all of a sudden your team that is celebrating that guy doesn't start off well. I've seen it happen a million times. So I'm actually going to be looking out for that to see, like, is this game going to start 10 minutes late? Because you could tell when players just want to get going, even though it's Wayne Simmonds, in the end, they want to play and they don't want to wait.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully the Flyers end up on the winning side of things, and Wayne Simmonds gets to have a party to celebrate his retirement there. While all this has been going on, the college hockey season has been continuing in the Frozen Four. We've got CHL playoffs. We're going to talk about the latest with those tournaments and touch on the Arizona Coyotes potentially relocating to Utah. We're going to do that coming up next.
When you're drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could handpick the best stars for your business team? If you're building your talent roster, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Find top talent with Indeed's suite of powerful tools like matching assessments, virtual interviews, and hate waiting. Indeed's US data shows over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job. With Indeed matching as soon as you sponsor a post, you get a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Boom. It's hiring at warp speed. And now with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that meet your hiring criteria. Visit Indeed.com/locked-on to start hiring now. That's Indeed.com/locked-on. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available to everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Eat stress-free this spring with Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals. Every fresh, never frozen meal is chef-crafted, dietitian-approved, and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Choose from a weekly menu of up to 35 options, including popular choices like Calorie Smart, Keto, Protein Plus, Vegan, or Veggie. Also, discover more than 60 add-ons every week like breakfast, on-the-go lunch, snacks, and beverages to help you stay fueled and feel good all day long. What are you waiting for? Get started and fuel up for your springtime goals. Factor meals eliminate the hassle of prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. You simply heat it up and savor the good stuff. Plus, you can customize your weekly meals with the flexibility to get as much or as little as you need. Pause or reschedule deliveries to suit your lifestyle. We're celebrating Earth Day all month long, so look out for the Earth Month Eats badge on the menu for our lowest carbon footprint meals. Head to factormeals.com/lockedonnhl50 and use the code LOCKEDONNHL50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next box. That's code LOCKEDONNHL50 at factormeals.com/lockedonnhl50 to get 50% off your first box and 20% off your next box while your subscription is active. All right, so we are down to our final two teams in the NCAA Frozen Four tournament. We had, while the Flyers were playing the Rangers, we had both games in the semifinals, the first of which Denver won over Boston University in overtime. Man, that was an exciting
That was a
game,
great game.
as
Yeah.
yeah, as I was following along, while the Flyers were playing, I think that some BU fans were a little salty about some officiating that went on,
I mean, I don't
but
think honestly, Denver's so well coached. David Carl, I had a chance to spend a lot of time around him with the USA camp. He's a great coach. He might be the best college coach right now. He might be a pro coach soon. So, that's as big a factor as anything.
right, I think so as well, but they are definitely a disciplined team. I will say though, Devin Kaplan got an assist on the one BU goal. That was good to see from him, but his season is now over. He will most certainly be returning to BU
Yeah.
next season, which is a good thing for him.
Yeah, he's gonna go back. He needs more development. I thought he was okay. I still look at him as a bottom six guy, and so yeah,
Right.
you just want to see a little more speed. His offense was pretty good this year. You still have to see more of that. But yeah, there's been development with him.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Boston College won over Michigan. So we will have Denver versus Boston College in that final. Who you got?
Well, I thought Michigan might surprise BC. Now I'm going to take BC because that line's still going and Cutter Goche is still going, and like I thought Rizzo played well for Denver since he had missed so much time. Wasn't quite the force he normally is on the power play, but in this game he could
Right.
be. Uh, Coaching is definitely on Denver's side. Jacob Fowler, like I told you, teams screwed up with him. He's a terrific goalie. Montreal really made out by getting
Yeah.
him. I've detailed it many times on this show. He was terrific. And Will Smith, there's some weird thing that's going on with people and him. Like
I don't understand it.
what I don't either. Like it's almost like anytime he scores, they try and point out how it was either lucky or it didn't do this or it didn't do that. He had points where he took over that game and guys couldn't cover him, and that's all I
Yep.
saw. The goal that he put in that was off the player skates, he pushed it into the player skates. Like he knew what he was doing. He's a smart kid. Trust me, this guy will be a very good NHLer, and the Sharks will be the last ones laughing on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Over in the OHL, the London Knights have now started round 2 of the playoffs, and they are playing Kitchener, the Rangers, interestingly. um, Future Flyers playing different Rangers. Both Denver Barkey and Oliver Box scored in that game. Really good plays from both of them, and so that was good to see.
Yeah, both are having really, really good seasons. So nice to see. Keep it going as long as you can keep it going.
Yeah, absolutely. Just because it is relevant to the league overall, man, the Arizona Coyotes, like th- their social media is fighting the good fight, saying we want
It's
to. But
it's
it
like
is.
the end of a Bugs Bunny thing. It's like that's all, folks. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, so there's definitely a backup plan in place. Should
Oh, I
this
no, it's
arena
more than
thing?
that. I
Yeah,
think they're winning the bid, and I just think they're
yeah,
going to try and build something in the future. I think the NHL just looked at things with, we don't know what went on behind the scenes, but maybe Salt Lake was kind of like, listen, do you want to do this or not? And then the NHL knows they have Atlanta on the way. And I think they made a decision like they had to tell Arizona, listen, you haven't put this together. We'll come back to you in a couple of years. And if you're continuing to develop, then, like the Cleveland Browns, what they did with the NFL, we'll give you a franchise back. But right now, I think, when you had a date of April 18th that I think Elliot Friedman had tweeted out, and the fact that they've talked about a plan, this is all way before, like, remember that bid's not going to be until June 27th. So
correct.
I just think they're not going to wait for it. I think, and the other weird thing was, I know somebody in the business down there, and the weird thing was that the mayor was getting involved in this, and technically the land's in Phoenix, not in Scottsdale. Now I know they call
Correct.
it like this is Scottsdale West or whatever, but
Or North Phoenix,
whatever,
some
but
kind of
it's still in
funny.
Phoenix. So
Yeah.
there was something weird going on with that.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that, you know, you look at the bottom line here, and it's literally the bottom line with money because,
Yes.
Seattle's entry fee was in like the $600 million range, looking at their entry fee, and this is going to be $1 billion transaction where they're going to basically buy out the Yotes from the league and then make money on it by going over that to the ownership group in Utah and distribute that amongst the owners. And like that's got to be appealing for them as well.
It is. We have to see what happens with the players and contracts. I have a feeling they're not all going to go to the new team.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out, but something to keep an eye on. Nobody likes to see teams relocated just because, it's all about the fans here.
Fans and
And
workers, like I get it.
yeah, yeah, and they've built a strong youth hockey program in that area as well. Austin Matthews is a product of that, and so to see some of that work maybe fall by the wayside is not
Well, I mean,
ideal as well.
look, I know I'm putting a lot on the players, but there's enough players from that area now. If they all chipped in and kind of took care of it, they might be able to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that'll do it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week talking about our last game of the season. I can't believe it, against the Washington Capitals. We'll recap the game against the Devils, and on Monday, we'll have our nemesis of the week. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So if you've got mailbag questions, some season ending questions for us, now is a good time to get them in via Twitter at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail or comment over on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. It's also available on the Amazon Fire TV app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus national shows covering every league like Locked On NHL. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Have a great weekend, everyone.